Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
If the police come here to arrest you, to take you to jail just like they did to your colleague and your peer in Edmonton, will you go to jail for this cause? How far are you willing to go?
Yeah. No, I plan to stand along with James, and I would do the exact same thing. So if they were to come and issue me an undertaking or arrest, then I would, like James, be very respectful and kind, but could not suppress my conscience and my beliefs to agree to abide by their terms. And so I would join him, and I know many other pastors are willing to do the same.
Keean Bexte for Rebel News outside of the Fairview Baptist Church in Calgary, Alberta. It is one of the many churches that is partaking in a little bit of civil disobedience, if you will. It turns out in Alberta, at least, civil disobedience isn't something completely owned by the left. Conservatives and religious Christians in this province are standing up against government tyranny. In this case, it is in support of Pastor James Coates from Edmonton, who has been holding his service in contravention of laws that infringe on his religious freedoms. The same, whether you're religious or not, religious freedoms, the freedom to worship when you want, how you want, and who you want, is a freedom on par with the freedoms of assembly, speech, movement in this country. They are fundamental freedoms, and they don't disappear because the government decides you don't deserve them all of a sudden, or because it's too risky to worship God. This church here is joining hands with churches across this province, standing up, holding worship here in this church above the 15% of fire code capacity that the provincial government has mandated. The provincial government in Alberta has lifted a lot of restrictions in this province, but places of worship haven't enjoyed that same relief from those restrictions. These churches are saying enough is enough. And while Pastor Jim Coates has been arrested and put in a detention center alongside child predators and murderers, and this pastor in particular has said, no, enough is enough.
Well, there's a number of churches that have been meeting and not necessarily strictly following the guidelines, but have been out of the public eye. Our church has received, I myself have received fines and court summons and such in the past. But because of just what's happened to James Coates, it has made a number of churches, including our own, I just want to publicly stand along with them and to let the province and let fellow Albertans know that the church is essential and that what we're doing here is not a threat to the public health, but rather very necessary, and standing for what is good and what is right, and loving our neighbor by bringing attention to the damage of the lockdowns, not only for religious communities, but for all Albertans.
Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta, actually created the Office of Religious Freedoms when he was a federal minister in the Harper government. This is, something that he supports, is religious freedoms in other countries, it seems. That was a foreign office. What do you think that office would say about what's going on in his own province now that he's Premier of it?
Yeah. Well, I think the idea of religious freedom is being a bit distorted today, where we have our Premier or other heads of state telling us what is reasonable for religious freedoms. But what's important to remember is that our conscience is bound before God. It's bound according to the Scripture. And so to freely practice our religion according to conscience is truly what religious freedom is.
Now, if the police come here to arrest you, to take you to jail just like they did to your colleague and your peer in Edmonton, will you go to jail for this cause? How far are you willing to go?
Yeah. No, I plan to stand along with James, and I would do the exact same thing. So if they were to come and issue me an undertaking or arrest, then I would, like James, be very respectful and kind, but could not suppress my conscience and my beliefs to agree to abide by their terms. And so I would join him, and I know many other pastors are willing to do the same.
So there was no tickets issued here today at the Fairview Baptist Church. The police have retreated after they saw reporters who are actually going to cover the story here at the Fairview Baptist Church. They're now loitering in that parking lot over there. I'm not sure what their plan was or why they arrived so late, but I can't help but think that us being here aided at least a little bit in this church not being fined today. They're off to go follow some more orders, I take it. No tickets were issued here today, I think. We're not sure if they're going to come back. They've sort of been coming to and fro. We're not sure if they're going to come back and ticket the pastor here. He's still in the building. But what we do know is that the Calgary Bylaw Services, as well as the Edmonton Police Service, the Calgary Police Service, they are not worried about violating the Constitution. They're not concerned about the rights of the citizens that they're supposed to serve and protect. They are simply here to follow orders, and they will do whatever they are told to. What do you make of this whole thing going on in the province, where being a Christian is equivalent to being persecuted by a government?
It is appalling. As somebody that has, as I was just saying to you prior to the interview, I've supported Jason Kenney financially, and I've volunteered for him for decades. And I can't believe that he's allowing this. This is a man that has taken a vow to serve the people through his own faith of the Roman Catholic Church, and he's allowing, like Pastor James Coates, to be imprisoned for preaching the gospel, for speaking to the people that he loves and cares for. I can't fathom that. Mm-hmm. And especially in a situation now where, to me, it's clear the pandemic that we were all waiting for didn't happen. Mm-hmm. There's not millions of people dead, dying in the street. There's not all these people falling over. It's clear there's no flu cases. There's no, I can't see why people do not see that.
Yeah.
And they still rely on Henshaw to claim that 7,000 people were tested positive. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it at all.
Now, these bylaw officers, the Calgary Police Service, the Edmonton Police Service, they answer to their respective mayors, and I think they've gotten off with not enough flack in this. Nenshi controls the Calgary Bylaw Service. He controls the Calgary Police Service. Why do you think he is sending bylaw to churches?
You know what? We've seen what's happened with Nenshi over the years with the street church downtown, how he is offered for other faiths to be welcome at the city, except for Pastor Pulowski and his church. We've seen the persecution happen for several years, since he began as mayor.
They were standing in that parking lot over there, sitting in their cars for about an hour, surveilling and spying on churchgoers. But we're here to document them. We're here to ask them questions. And luckily enough, we were, because when we tried to do that, they fled. Religious freedoms are under attack. Religious freedoms are just as profound and serious and important and protected as any other freedom in the Constitution. Your freedom of assembly, of speech, of thought. It's an important freedom, and it needs to be protected even when police services and law enforcement across this country are trying harder than ever to stomp down any dissent, whether it's political or religious. Like I said, please go to freepastorjames.com. Check out all of our coverage on this file. There's a lot to digest. It's a lot of important information, but this is a serious issue. It doesn't get more fundamental than this. Go check it out at freepastorjames.com.